Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode with the Fab Fatties. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Allie.
And we have missed you all so much. We are a little giddy getting back into the studio today. And we're really excited to talk about our topic today.
Yeah.
Which is being a good fatty.
Mm-hmm.
And performing health.
Yeah.
I feel like it's performatory health.
I think there's a lot of performatory things that go into being a good fatty. I did, when we first started talking about this episode, though, I definitely was like, should we rename? Should we rebrand the podcast? Good Fatties?
Ooh.
Or Bad Fatties?
Well,
let us know in the comments.
Let's face it, we know who we're going to get named after, and it's the Bad Fatties. Maybe we're the Bad Fat Baddies. What?
Honestly, that worked out.
It
the
did.
Bad Fat Baddies. You know what? I like it.
We're double bad.
Bad to the bone, baby.
Yeah, but what's
loving
interesting
this vibe.
is, like, I feel like the whole good fatty, bad fatty comes up in lots and lots of ways, but there was a specific inspiration point and, like, a place where this idea really started resonating for us.
So this topic came about because we actually submitted to be part of Philly FatCon. We wanted to go as presenters and connect within the community. Unfortunately, we were not selected this year, so we were definitely disappointed, but completely understand and are happy for the folks that did get to go and have a chance to connect with the community. And I think it's important for us to say up front that as three fat women in the space, we know how hard it is to do this work.
Yeah.
So nothing but respect, admiration, appreciation for all of the folks at Philly FatCon who make that space available year after year, and also the folks who donate their time to make it successful.
Yeah.
It is so needed. It is a safe space for people. So what we talk about today is not a negative reflection upon Philly FatCon. We still hope to participate with them in the future and be there and connect within the community.
And we weren't there. We have no idea what the vibes were like there.
100%. This conversation that we wanted to have today came up because we were hoping to do a live podcast recording at FatCon, and we didn't really know what we would talk about. And we had thrown out some ideas, and we had some things on the back burner if we got selected. But after seeing the itinerary for the weekend, it really inspired this conversation. And I'm going to pass it off to Allie to talk a little bit more about what the itinerary was and how this conversation came about.
Well, thanks, Queen. Yes, I think actually you shared the screenshot first. I hadn't seen you, Rebecca. I shared the screenshot first. I hadn't seen it yet, but then I did take a look at it, and it seemed like there were two factions of FatCon. There were basically two, like when you look at the itinerary, right? There was two columns, right? There was Mold Your Mind and there was Move Your Body.
Mm-hmm.
And all the Mold Your Minds were panels and speakers, guest speakers, keynote speaker, all those things. Move Your Body was all movement focused. So yes, there was a dance fitness class. There was a yoga class. There was a body weight strength training class. There were a lot of classes. But basically it really kind of boiled down to those two categories.
Yeah. And I think that was all on the first day of the con, right? It was when they had...
Well, it's the first... I mean, there's only one full day of Philly FatCon. So, because I was there last year. And I had a great time last year. I had a great time. I made new friends. Shout out to Jesse and Ashley. I love you both so much. Megan, I already knew you, but I love you too. Mm-hmm. I made some great new friends there. I had a great time. Where was I?
The second day is
the second day.
Yeah, so like the first day is when they have the actual panels and such. And then the second day, they still had a market and they also had another fitness thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like, Friday is like welcome party vibes, like very casual kind of thing. Saturday is like the full day of FatCon. So that's when they had all the speakers and everything. And I guess the majority of the movement classes. And then Sunday is the plus swap. So everybody brings in their clothes, and I guess there was another speaker that day. But everybody brings in clothes that they were, going to get rid of anyway. So they come in and they swap it, and it's pretty cool.
Wow.
And throughout the day, there's vendors all set up. I know Wider was there, and Amore 781 that we've worked with, they were there. So a lot of great companies were there and supporting, and we love that. We love to see it. I think where this conversation comes from is I feel like we all had some feelings. We all had some feelings about it being FatCon and what that means to us and how that itinerary made us feel.
Yeah. Well, think about it. I really come from the place of like, what I know about FatCon is it's a fat liberation space.
Sure.
Right? But I feel like if you didn't know that and you see that itinerary, I think some of you thinks it's weight loss driven.
I agree.
But on the flip side, and I've said this, a safe space for us to move our bodies is also needed.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is when we got into really diving into, well, what does it mean to be a good fat? And what does it mean to be a fat person and with your health?
Mm-hmm.
Looking for outerwear that fits like it was made just for you? Snow Country Outerwear has you covered, literally. With designs that prioritize plus-size comfort and style, you'll find jackets, bibs, pants, and more that don't just fit, but fit well. Say goodbye to oversized boxy cuts and hello to quality customizable pieces made to handle the elements. Whether you're hitting the slopes or heading to brunch, Snow Country has the fit, warmth, and style you deserve. Shop now and find outerwear that truly works for your body.
Yeah, I want to say, like, I think all of us came in with different expectations and experiences of these kinds of cons because I work in academia. So whenever I'm thinking of we're going to a conference, they typically are themed. And I think whenever they put out the original call, they didn't have a theme presented. And so it wasn't until they put out the itinerary that I was like, oh, the theme is like a wellness movement theme,
Yes.
right? And I think that became clear then how like what we had suggested maybe didn't fit.
Sure.
But I think also on the flip side of that, what we talked about was like, okay, well, let's pretend that we had been accepted and we didn't know what the theme was, right? So what would we present when the alternative to coming to our talk would be movement? All right, because it was either you come to the talks, and some of the talks had to do with movement as well, or you go do movement. That was the options, right? And I think that's where, let's face it, movement in fat liberation spaces is loaded. Movement, when it's one of the only options, is loaded. And also I think whenever we think about, there's so few of these kinds of conferences. I'd love to see more.
Yeah.
I'd love to see more, which is why I want Philly FatCon to be successful and
Yes.
keep going.
Yeah.
Is when there's so few, and this might be the only event I go to where fat people are collecting together, what does it mean to have it centered on movement? And I think for all three of us, we all have a different reaction to that.
Sure.
We all have a different place of like, oh, this would absolutely fit with an area for me. I think having my past, which was very much plus size fashion focused, I've been to events where the only way women connect is through fashion.
Yeah.
And so I think it is nice that there's these other places with other topics happening. That's what I hope to do with Charlotte Plus. It's, yeah, fashion's fun, yeah, but there's other stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when we thought, okay, let's do the reality, which is that we had no idea what the theme was, but let's pretend that we had been accepted. What feelings come up when we see this kind of agenda? And by agenda, I mean literally the time agenda, right?
Yeah.
Where it is a couple different speakers. I think they maybe had 5 different panels, all right? A keynote about gyms, and
Yes.
and then 5 or 6 movement classes. What came up for us? And it was the good fatty, bad fatty dynamics.
And I do think it's important that, when we say, talking about this itinerary and everything, right? I do think it's important to note that the keynote was about gym intimidation.
Yes.
Which both sides of the coin, right? Like I understand that there are a lot of plus size fat people who do feel scared to go to a gym. And I also think that that's maybe a little bit of a stereotype now. Maybe not so much like when I was in my like heavy dieting and working out days, but I do feel like it may be a little generalized to just assume that we're all scared to go to the gym now. Um, but I can understand, like, yeah, it's a great topic. It's a great topic, right? I think just pairing with, right, like the keynote was about the gym, half of the con was about movement. It felt very wellness focused, like you said. And it's not that I don't think that, like you said, Alyssa, like it's not that I don't think that fat girls need a safe space to move their bodies together, because I mean shit, I would love to do a group dance class with you guys, right? It's more so for me that, like, okay, so you were talking about other conferences, right? I've been to tons of real estate conferences. I used to go to 2 every year. And it was like, I knew that I was going to the real estate conference for real estate. There was a run club that met up like early in the morning outside of the itinerary. There was a prayer thing. There's a prayer thing every Sunday morning of every conference. And that is part of the itinerary, but like, it's not the whole thing, right? It's not like half the con is about this and half the con is about this. Like the con was about real estate. Here's some bonus things. This felt very,
this is what it's about.
both. Yeah. Yeah.
I find the timing really unique for myself, because for a couple weeks in therapy and in my dietitian sessions with Taryn, I was pushing a lot and like pushing recovery. And after a little while, I started to get met with, why are you pushing so much?
Okay.
And I was like,
can you give us like what does that mean?
Yeah. I was pushing myself to be further along in my recovery journey. And I was putting pressure on hitting milestones and markers and being more consistent and everything. I was feeling so burnt because all day the dialogue was like, do more. And this really started to come up around movement, because I have the desire to want to move my body. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of obstacles standing in my way of actually fully achieving that. And I was just berating myself over this, beating myself up. It's all I wanted to talk about. And then I started to meet with, well, why are we pushing? If it's not happening right now, why are we stuck here?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, because I'm not moving my body. Like, that's not healthy. And
You're
she's
not being
like,
a good fatty.
I'm not being a good fat person. I'm not.
That brings us to.
I'm not, quote unquote, earning my food. Mm-hmm. I'm not, quote unquote, performing that I'm trying to be smaller.
You're still very much a victim of diet culture.
What we all are,
100%,
right? But
100%.
yeah, so this was coming up a lot. And then Philly FatCon released it. And for me, it very much landed of like, oh, I need to be performing a little bit better.
I had the same feeling. And I don't know how you felt, Rebecca, but I've had the same feeling of just like, God, can we just have a big group, I don't know, a conference just of a bunch of fat girls. It just feels like a party to me, right? Can we not just have a big party and not think about diet culture and not think about how everybody else who's not living in our bodies, right, is like, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. So let's pack half your conference with movement. And I definitely went on the defense for sure. What about you?
Yeah, I think in general, my thought when I saw that was, this is a more marketable event. to people who aren't fat and are afraid of fat liberation. Yeah, a bunch of fat people are together, but we're doing wellness. And that doesn't mean that that's actually on the forefront of their mind. In my pretend mind, because I'm assuming everything, in my pretend mind, they got Raza Diva as the keynote and they're like, let's do this wellness. Like, that is my mind what happened, okay? But my thought was, if we're going to get a bunch of fat people together, we are going to talk about a topic that other people can easily buy into, of fat people discussing and doing. And it is a topic that people struggle with that are fat, as is medical discrimination, as is all these things. And I think, you know, as someone who absolutely would be going to these events for the talks and chats, I personally would have wanted more of those, less classes. You know, like if I was designing my own pretend ideal thing, because what it was all the wellness was movement.
Yes.
There wasn't wellness journaling. There wasn't wellness, like other kinds of practices.
There wasn't wellness advocacy. Like, because and I don't mean to interrupt you, but as you're saying these things, like, I'm literally thinking, yeah, like, I would love for there to be a class about how to advocate for yourself at the doctor.
Yeah.
I would love to have a class about how to respectfully clap back at Thanksgiving, right? Like have these moments, right? Have these panels and these speakers and things like that. But why not have some interactive things where we can, you know, role play with each other and just, like, you know, I know that we're also comfortable with each other. We're comfortable in our bodies, and even, I mean, some more so than others. And, you know, we're comfortable in our fat community, but, like, that is not the same for everyone else. Like, there were people I met last year at Philly FatCon who, like, that was their first foray into fat acceptance, fat liberation.
Yeah.
And so I very much agree with you. I do think it's a miss.
Well, let me go back to my history again, okay? Sure. All of my early experiences were going through fashion, okay? Fashion events. There used to be an event called, oh shit, can't remember now, Plus Size Fashion Week. Full Figured Fashion Week, there we go. Full Figured Fashion Week in New York. I met with other bloggers who shared their clothes. A lot of it was fashion branding. Fashion, too, is an easy link for people to connect, the way women have been socialized to connect, okay? What's the good side of fashion? Expression, style, creativity, okay? What's the negative side of fashion? Consumerism, spending beyond your means, revalidating ideal physical features, aka it's flattering, right? So, like, and also the people who got most celebrated were the ones that most reached conventional beauty standards, okay? So there were ins and there were outs with that, okay? It wasn't until I went to events like Fat Camp, where truly is about just connecting as people and talking about our concerns, that I was like, oh, this is what it means to actually connect to fat women. All right, this is what it actually means to connect to fat women. Okay. And so when I saw that, I thought, okay, I see what they're doing. It's going to serve somebody. It wouldn't have served me. I would go to some panels, okay? But I don't want to connect with other fat women through movement. And that is a personal thing. That does not mean that no one else would want to do that. I just want to connect to fat women through conversation, honesty, hearing about our life experiences, etc. I can't do that when I'm Zumbaing and focusing on my breath. And that is absolutely a personal preference. But I no longer want to make connections through some of these what I call easy connectors from women. Sure. Fashion, gym/diet talk, etc. I want to kind of cut those connection points and connect alternatively. So that's just how I responded to it. I felt like, I don't know if I fit here. And that's okay.
Why? Why do you want to make different connections?
Yeah, I think in general, what I've found is when I do stuff, like when I go someplace and I don't know people there, and I'm one of the few big people in the room, women come up to me and say things like, don't you just wish you could go back to that time when we could eat a cupcake and it didn't do XYZ, right? Or I come back,
the mac and cheese that you're eating.
Or I'm hiking, and granted, same girl, I'm hiking, and a girl comes up and she's like, oh, I just need to catch a breath. You know, and I'm like, and there is a solidarity there. Solidarity, okay? Going up that hill's hard, okay?
Or you're at a medical facility, and people feel comfortable talking about their weight with you just because you are comfortable in your body.
Yes, yeah. I get a lot of trauma dumping. I get a lot of
Yes.
I get a lot of let's connect through diet talk.
Gosh, that has to be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah.
Because this has come up a lot for me lately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I do think I think people see me in a big body and think I'll know. And the thing is, I do know, but I want to have a relationship that is mutually engaging, where I'm not having to teach or nurture for what purpose, right? Just to be the fat person who's there to make you feel less bad about you also being potentially a little bit fat.
Hey everyone, did you know that the Fab Fatties are on Patreon? Yes, we are, and you can follow us for more behind the scenes chaos. We have bloopers, we have Allie raging, we have, me climbing out windows. I don't know, we just have a bunch of crazy stuff over there. Yeah, so you can find us on Patreon. That's PATTREON.
EON.com / the Fab Fatties.
PATE.
No.
PATREON. That's what I said.
.com / the Fab Fatties.
And we will see you over there.
I think that's really the thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really the thing that makes it so uncomfortable, because now I'm going back to what Alyssa referenced. Alyssa and I were in the emergency room together, and we had there was a great nurse. There was a great was she security? I think she was security.
Yeah.
Right?
She was a hoot.
She was a hoot. Oh my God, she was a
Loved
hoot.
her.
They were so kind. Everybody there was so kind, right? And they both connected to us through our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And Alyssa and I were very
Well, through their perception of our bodies.
and through their bodies, right? In the way that you're talking about, Rebecca, of like, they see us, and we are able to talk about things a little bit more freely, a little bit more openly than I think a lot of other fat people, and surely like the fat girl that I was 5 years ago.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
But it was being met with like, oh yeah, it's so great to hear about your podcast, but I had this surgery to get rid of, and I lost this much weight, and I totally get it. And it's like, yes, and no, you don't. Right? It's like, we're talking about not living our lives that way anymore, right?
Yeah.
Not in a way of like, oh, we don't want to be this or we don't want to be that, but just in a way that it's like, we're finally letting ourselves live.
Yeah.
That's how we've always connected.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. It feels like that's how I've always been connected to, or how I've attempted to connect to people as well. Is like, and I say this all the time, my first time hanging out in a room full of, I'm going to say, slightly larger people was a Weight Watchers meeting. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So it wasn't until my very first Charlotte Plus event that I was like, oh my God, you can get together with other fat people and not talk about salads and steps? Holy shit. This was an entirely new concept to me.
Well, I think that's what makes me nervous about it. And again, I haven't been there, and I'm sure people who have been can speak from their experience, right? My fear is that there are the people who this is the very first time they've gotten the courage to go be around other fat people, and then they're encouraged to, as part of it, perform the moving their body part, right? And I wonder, actually, this is a question for you, Alyssa, for someone who is in the throes of like wanting to move, but having a lot of obstacles there. And I realize you almost can't imagine it being your first one, although it would have been your first time in a big plus fat liberation space. And then being kind of like, here, go to this movement class. How would that have felt?
Wow. I think I could have seen it being really positive for 1 or 2 classes.
Sure.
I think if it was all movement focused and was really having me put a lot of attention on my body, I think I would have been in a really negative headspace. Just because it's a lot. I was about to jump in and pivot our conversation a little bit because we're talking about being a good fatty, which really comes down to the word health. And it is a loaded word that I think we do need to give some time to. And health is socially in society talked about in a specific way. It has a specific look. You have to do specific actions. And it needs to look like health to other people, which is where the performatory aspect comes in, right?
Yeah.
You need to look like you are working to achieve health.
Yeah.
I think it's so important to reiterate that it does not matter the size of your body. You can be unhealthy at any size.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like people won't argue with as much as you can be healthy at any size.
Oh, 100%.
But you can be unhealthy at any size.
I mean, you've seen it firsthand, right?
Yeah.
Being in eating disorder recovery,
Yeah.
right? How many people didn't look like you that were incredibly unhealthy?
100. I mean, literally dying, right? We talked about the statistics for eating disorders.
Yeah.
You know, there are people who are in a socially acceptable body where they could be perceived as healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they are literally killing their body.
Yes.
Yeah. I know you brought up health. I'm wanting almost to take another step back, and I'm wondering if y'all are okay with it. Like, I just want us to brainstorm for a minute what things we associate with good fatty and bad fatty.
Yeah.
So let's just
Oh, yeah.
start with good fatty, okay?
Good fatty is when you go out to lunch with people, you order a salad because
Right.
you're supposed to.
Ooh.
Good fatty to me, you can recognize as a good fatty, and when I say good fatty, I mean you have social value based on performing or doing or having these things. Okay, good fatties have thin faces, even if they have fat bodies.
That's a good one.
Good fatties, show themselves being active in some kind of way. Good fatties acknowledge that dieting and movement and exercise is good for you, and they say it as a value system.
So
Okay.
that-
Yes. And I also think I want to preface I this pains me to actually say because I don't think it's a good thing. So I want to say good fatty does not mean it's you being a good fat person.
right.
Oh no, this is what
Right?
gets you seen as social value in the
As a good performing fat person.
Yes.
Okay. I think you don't inconvenience anyone with your size, meaning you don't ask for accommodations, meaning you take up as little space as possible. You don't, you know what I'm saying? Like on the subway, you like are truly like sitting in a corner or like standing
Yeah.
off to the side.
Meanwhile, the dude next to you is manspreading like a motherfucker,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, I need to take up less space.
Yeah.
I think that in kind of going back to what you were saying about the movement stuff too, there are some fat babes on the internet that I absolutely love, and I will ride for them. Right, they're in the community, and I see them post things that are like, you don't have to subscribe to health and diet and workout. Me myself, I definitely work out, right? I have seen that so many times where it's like it's two different messages, right? It's you don't have to subscribe to this, but just so you know, I'm a good fatty. Just so you know, I do work out. You don't have to, but just so you know, I do work out. I do this. I do this. Like I am for you,
but not one of you.
but not one of you.
Well, and I think it's the feeling of performing against fat stereotypes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So no
that
medical
is a good
issues.
fatty.
Yeah.
You have no medical issues. You are not, you would never take a day to lay on the couch.
Mm-mm.
God forbid you took a day and you were quote unquote lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, because when a thin person rests, it's good for them. They're resting. They're taking care of themselves.
Rotting.
When a fat person rests, they're lazy.
Yeah. Well, and like, maybe I feel this more because, I consider myself a late bloomer, etc. But good fatties are desirable. Good fatties date people. Good fatties, and I think it's just, here's the thing that, and before we get into bad fatties, that I want to say, I once had someone say this to me, and I think this is what a lot of people feel, is they feel like diet culture tells them to eat the salad, And fat acceptance tells them that they eat the salad, they're bending to diet culture and they're whatever.
My
And I want to
God,
say,
yeah.
no, it doesn't have to be that. The question that I think fat liberation asks you to consider is, are you eating this because you want to, because you like it, because you find value in it, whether it's nutrition, etc.? Or are you eating it because you feel like if you eat something else, you'll be judged?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Like earlier, Alyssa and I were watching TV, and a Zaxby's commercial came on, and they have a new salad. And I'm a big fan of Zaxby's salads, and I literally
Should get that promotion. Zaxby's sponsor
Hey
us.
Zaxby's, hit me up. I love those new tacos too. But no, and it was this new salad, and I was like, oh my God, I want to try that salad because I just want to try the salad because I like salads, right? There was a time in my life though that it was like,
All you allowed yourself
first
to
of all,
eat.
there was no way I could have that fucking salad because that looks too delicious, right? But also it's like, oh, I'm going out with my real estate team. Gotta have a salad. You know, everybody's ordering lunch today. Gotta get a salad.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, what are you eating today? Mine has this many calories. Like, how many points is yours? Like, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing I keep coming back to when it comes to like just people feeling like they fall into this pit between good fatty, bad fatty, and nothing they do is quote unquote right.
Yeah.
Is that we have to know like this whole idea of good fatty, bad fatty is a social construct where we
Yes.
place values on things.
Yes.
And it is bigger than us individually, right? And it's all about the pressures we feel to perform something, because there is times where I felt so frustrated with diet culture, etc., that literally if you told me to eat the salad, I'm ordering 3 cakes, okay? And like, I need you to leave me the fuck alone because I need to exercise my agency. Like, it just felt like I
Yes.
didn't
I
have
love
agency
that.
and I had to, right? And like, there is somewhere where I get freed from both of that and I pick to eat what I want to eat, the amount I want to eat.
The first 2 months of me in eating disorder recovery with Taryn went so well because all she went was, what are your favorite foods? And I was like, girl, I love ice cream. She's like, great. Put ice cream in the house.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm going to eat it all. She's like, okay, eat it all. What chips do you love? Oh, I love some Cool Ranch Doritos. Great. Buy them. No, I won't. I'll eat the whole bag. Great. Eat the whole bag. Her whole thing for the first 2 months was allow yourself to have the things you tell yourself you cannot have, and they lose value. It was the craziest thing. If you go in our kitchen right now, it is snack galore because I don't feel like I have to have them. I now know if I want them, I can have them.
Right.
Like that scarcity mindset is gone.
Hey, Fab Fatties fans, let's be real. Too often, we fat babes are left out in the cold when it comes to outerwear, but not anymore. Our sponsor, Snow Country Outerwear, is changing the game with functional, stylish pieces made for every body. With sizes 1X to 6X for women and up to 7XL for men, plus customizable fits in short, regular, and tall options, they're making sure we all stay warm and fabulous. Visit their website at snowcountryouterwear.com and get ready to slay no matter the weather.
Yeah, and I have the exact same thing when it comes to scarcity mindset. And like as a kid, not having access to certain foods, and I had siblings, and just certain foods weren't allowed, etc. Like, it creates a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
That once you have access to it, and you know you can, like as an adult, learning I can have the foods I want to have when I want to have them has been a big thing. And then of course, you know, we get finances, whatever. It gets messy again. I did want to say this. I keep getting off track. This might be an episode where we're like, is why am I feeling what I'm feeling? What is leading me to that feeling? Okay. So if I'm having the moment where like I'm seeing a salad and I'm like, oh, diet culture says I have it, but then also if I don't eat it, am I just accepting this other alternative? And what's the alternative? And all this other stuff, right? It gets scary. What are you feeling? Why? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Because I think a lot of us, when we saw the itinerary for this con, the con itself doesn't matter. Why are we having the experience? Why are we having that reaction, right?
yeah.
And I think we're having it because we are fat people who think a lot about our fat existence.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we also care about the way fatness gets shaped by community.
Well, and I think too, it's very important. It's at least very important for me because we know that I read the troll comments a little too much sometimes. But
Sometimes.
I've been been very good lately.
Good.
But you know, I've had other things on my mind. I think that's something for me that it's like there have been so many comments I've seen and these videos from these very mediocre men on the internet that are just like, God, they just talk about their bodies all the time. Like that's all they care about is being fat. That's all they think about. Like we're taking up so much free rent in their head because that's all they think about. You don't understand. Our whole lives, that was the first thing you think about when you wake up, and the last thing you think about before you go to bed is what am I wearing tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? Because I don't, for me, when I was on, I don't know, my 10th diet in a row, it's like, okay, tomorrow I'll just have, 2 scoops of, I don't know, something I like, whatever. But like, just, it's all consuming. It's all consuming. It's all like, yeah, of course we think about our bodies all the time because everybody,
we were programmed that
our
way.
society.
When we meet someone, that might be the very first thing they catalog about us.
Might.
It is. Sure, it is.
Yeah.
if someone needed to explain who I am to someone who hasn't seen me, they're going to go, a fat white woman.
But that's the thing.
You know?
It's like that literally, how did that become the biggest descriptor, right? But because we live in a society obsessed with size. We live in a society obsessed with size, with looks, with vanity. And so it's very much like, that's like the number one thing. It's like, oh yeah, she's a fat girl. And yeah, we do identify as fat girls now because we spend our whole lives being terrified to be fat girls.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and as 3 white girls, it is the one thing that marks us off of the, privileged majority of the nation, I am wondering now, like, what did y'all think when you hear bad fatty?
Literally the opposite. I technically would consider the 3 of us bad fatties, right?
I don't actually.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I say that like technically, I don't actually think that, but technically, like I look at us, how society views us, right? We eat what we want. We move if we want to. We don't move if we want to, right? We
Little Debbie.
Yeah, we wear crop tops. We don't, cover our bellies. We don't care about being good fatties, right?
Okay, yeah. I'm with you. I think I was wording it differently in my head, meaning that we don't shy away from stereotypes.
Yeah.
Right? So I laid on the couch and did nothing yesterday.
Hell yeah.
And that's what I did.
I think whenever I see like a fat person out in the world and you can see that they have their diabetes little thing on the back of their arm,
Sensors.
a sensor, I am like, there's a part of me that's just like, go you for taking care of your health regardless of the fact that people are going to see that and put stigma on you, because like a bad fatty has the medical things that go along with fatness, right? And it's why a lot of fat people don't seek treatment or want to shy away from it. Diabetes, sleep apnea, etc. Right? It doesn't only affect fat people, but it's in
stereotypes
in the discourse of our society. It is a stereotype.
Yeah, and it's very much like, I mean, I think there's so many different ways that you can be considered a bad fatty, but it really does boil down to what you said, Alyssa. Like it's rejecting the stereotypes and not performing, right? It's going out with your diet obsessed real estate team and you order a burger and it's like, I hope you guys enjoy your salads. This is what I really wanted and I fucking love it. It's rejecting when people say to you like, oh my God, I can't believe you're gonna eat that? You're gonna get that? Like, oh, I wish I could have that. No, you can. Mm-hmm. You can. It's like, oh, well, I'm being bad. No, you're just,
It makes me think immediately of people that say glorifying obesity, right? And the glorifying obesity, literally, whenever that is used, it is anytime you are laughing, showing connections with friends and family or loved ones or a partner.
Being happy in a fat body.
Being happy in a fat body without being like, I had to do something to earn this. Eating food and enjoying the food.
In general.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, if I posted a picture of myself eating that fucking Zaxby's salad, oh my God, can you believe how many calories are in that salad? Like, you can't fucking win, so why?
You fucked that up.
Yeah.
How many calories are in that salad is what you should have said.
Damn it. But for real, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. So I'd rather be a bad fatty.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that's where like the movement thing comes in, right? Because like if you're not moving, if you're not doing intentional movement, there's some bad fattiness to it.
I hear that and I heard what I just said and I'm like, oh wait, but then I think about one of our, one of our most, favorite admirers who just loves us so much. Half the fucking videos he makes are about fat people who work out and how they're still not doing it right. And it's still not enough, right? Like he talks about Anna O'Brien, Glitter and Lasers, who, she's been on several different sides of the, I don't know, being a fat creator.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go there. And she has very much, she's posted a lot about working out and wellness and stuff like that. And he attacks her all the time. Every other video. It's like, I'm not even going to say what it is, but every other video, it's like, oh, but she's not doing it right. She's not doing it right because she's a fat person, right? And then like he had several videos about Lizzo, right? And I know, we all have our feelings about Lizzo at this point, but like he has these videos about Lizzo of like, she's still not good enough.
Well, this is where the Anna O'Brien part comes in, because whether or not you like following her content, she is doing all the things, but because she's not in a much thinner body yet, she's still getting shit on by the people that do that. Because part of me is like, okay, good fatty is things that people who are thin, who uphold thinness as an ideal, are going to support and praise you for, and bad fatty is anything that people have those beliefs would shame you for, right? It's like, what things would get me praise and by someone who holds the value that thinness equals correct or thinness equals right, and which things, that to me is like, that's it. You're a good fatty if you appease those people.
Yeah.
And you're a bad fatty if you don't appease those people. And we get it we get signals of our good and bad fattiness from, I love the way I say that, from everyone. From ourselves, like that internalized fat phobia really shows up and makes you think those things. From our family, love my family. They knew that I did do intentional weight loss, right? The amount of praise and support I got around that was loud. As I stopped and got into more of a stable weight and was not performing, trying to lose more, that quieted.
Yes.
Right? And then I'm starting to get more conversation about losing weight again. So like, does it feel good to get praise? Does it feel good to fit in and belong? It is a very intoxicating feeling to uphold the values people want of you, especially the ones you love the most. And then also like people who followed me, said things. And I had weight loss surgery for lots of reasons, and this episode's not for that necessarily. But what I can say is that there were multiple areas of my life where I felt like I mattered more with the weight loss, where I felt like I got more positive reinforcement with the weight loss. And I had to mentally do my whole bubble thing often, of reminding myself, you hold worth regardless. Reminding myself, you're in charge of what's happening here. Because it can absolutely, I can see why people have weight loss surgery and then lead to eating disorder, because of how much praise you get for losing a large amount of weight quickly.
Well, and I think too that I think what it ultimately boils down to with good fatty and bad fatty, a bad fatty does not put their worth in their appearance, right? Does not put their worth, either has learned or just says fuck it, I don't know, but when I think of myself, I definitely am not a good fatty. I'll be a bad fatty, that's fine, because I no longer place my worth on the size of my jeans, on the however many, fruits and proteins are on my plate, however many, whatever number says on the scale, my worth is not tied up in that anymore. And I think that's a big part of it, is understanding that it's just detaching. It's detaching and understanding our bodies are always going to change, right? Our bodies are always going to change. People's bodies everybody's bodies are always going to change, and you can fight it if you want. That's fine. But like, I don't know where I'm going with this, but death is coming for all of us, y'all. Like, it really is so telling to me, these very angry men on the internet who are just like, it, we're never gonna be good enough, right? We're never gonna be like good enough, a good fatty enough to be one of them, right? To be in their circle. Not that I want to be in these people's circle.
Yeah, I was
right?
gonna say the thing I most worry about, and I think this is the worst part you're talking about, is that internal good fatty, bad fatty thing, right? Like, and that's what was coming up with you in your therapy sessions. Is it's one thing to be like, oh, how society views us, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But like when you yourself struggle to feel worthy,
Yeah.
unless you're performing on a timeline, it sounds like for you, like a timeline that maybe others expect or you expect of yourself, right? Then that's the deep hard stuff.
Yeah.
That's the deep hard stuff. I feel like people who don't know me cannot know me and not know how I deal with my own internal fat phobic thoughts, and it's really hard to convey in words how I deal with it. I am past the days of not knowing if I'm worthy of love, respect,
Yeah.
living my life how I want to live it, etc. I don't deal with worthiness concerns. What I deal with now is self-satisfaction, maybe.
Okay.
And that I do battle with the internal good fatty, bad fatty stuff.
I think that's fair. I don't think any of us are immune from that. I mean, you and I the other day were talking about how we both were feeling some kind of way with our internalized fat phobia, right? And like, I was sitting there, I don't know, spoiler alert if you haven't seen my Instagram or anything, but I've had a really kind of wild, shitty couple weeks, right? And I was feeling guilty because I'm like, but I just, I have this going on and this going on, this going on. My life is in shambles right now, but I'm sitting here resting and eating food, right? And like, my internalized fat phobia was like, this, you're not being good. You're not being good. And it's like, no, I needed the rest, right? I mean, that's what you were talking about too. Just needing, it's okay to need rest. It's okay. It doesn't make you a bad fatty. It doesn't make you a bad person. Like,
Yeah. All of this said about being a good fatty or a bad fatty, and just the idea around good and bad and where values are placed, I still aspire to be healthy in my fat body. And I aspire to be my definition of health, which is where I think it's really important to talk about what health actually means to you as an individual.
absolutely.
Right? Because the gym bros who they think they're at the top of their health, to me, that is not me living a healthy life.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I will even go as far to say, like, my family members who have diabetes, their version of health is not going to look like mine.
Yeah.
So I think that's a question where you really need to sit down for yourself and define what it is. But for me right now, that is not giving into any sort of restriction, any sort of dieting or diet culture conversations. It is being comfortable with body sensations. It's checking in on myself and giving myself what I need. It is going to therapy twice a week and seeing my dietitian and going to PT and working with a sleep doctor. Like, that is where my health is right now.
Yeah.
And yes, I have a desire to want to move my body. However, I wasn't allowed to for the couple of years. And there's a lot of other work that needs to happen right now in order for me to get to that place. So this last week, I don't know if we did we did do one episode we recorded. My back, I had a herniated disc in my back. I was sitting here, me and Allie were recording, had ice, literally a bag of ice on my back. For 2 weeks, I've had the most excruciating back pain. And through that, I was stretching my back and doing some PT exercises. I felt like such a badass. I said, look at me, I'm stretching. And I told Taryn, and Taryn said, yeah, you're taking care of yourself. Like, that's your version of health. And I actually started crying because I didn't think it was possible.
Yeah.
And that's where I put a lot of emphasis on define health yourself and do not listen to the outside. Do not listen to diet culture. When I was in Chicago on vacation, we were walking, it was hot, we were eating such good food. One day, I was like, I don't want something heavy in me right now.
Yeah.
It's hot out, we're doing a lot of walking. I ordered a steak salad at the restaurant.
Yeah.
And it was lovely.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. And it wasn't for anyone else other than I needed to eat. And the ingredients in that bowl were appealing to my taste buds.
Yeah.
Period. Done. There is nothing else to that conversation. You know? So I think if anything comes from, you know, Philly FatCon and movement and this conversation, it is, we understand what society thinks good and bad, right? We've defined what that means to us. I think that is a pretty universal feeling to other fat folks. Now, what is that actually going to mean for us?
Can I call you out on something really quick?
Yeah.
Nice. I hear you a lot.
Nice.
I hear you a lot when we bring up movement, when we talk about movement.
Yeah.
A lot of times you throw in, I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to move. I wasn't allowed to move. And to me, it almost sounds like you're like, I'm not doing this because of this, but I'm trying, you know, like, it almost feels like you have to like give yourself this, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but it's the way that you talk about movement, that you know, you're excited about it. You're excited about the possibility about it, you know, and what that looks like getting back into it. And then I hear you go, I wasn't allowed to move.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like to me, sometimes it comes out as like, well, this is why I haven't moved, because I wasn't allowed to, right? You don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to have this is why I wasn't moving, right?
Well, I think I do that because I stress how important movement is to me.
Sure.
So I think I am giving the context of why I lost that relationship.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense too.
You know?
And now I hear it differently.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
love that.
Because I did have movement taken away from me because I was compensating.
Okay.
Right? Like I was saying, oh, you're going to have me eat this much in a day. Like,
I have to move.
How much do I need to move my body in order to compensate that? Which is why they went, nope.
Okay.
You need every calorie you're intaking.
Yeah.
We're not going to lose anything.
So movement has started being a self-harm thing, and then that's why it was taken harm.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was part of the eating disorder for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, any type of diet, almost all of them will give you more calories to eat if you exercise,
sure.
because everyone would be passing out if they didn't.
Right.
And the goal was, literally one of the diets I was on was so harmful that it was like, how much are you intaking? Well, that's how much you need to be burning throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like it needs to equal out at the end of every day, which is
calories in, calories out.
Actually insane.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
talk about this stuff now and I hesitate saying it because I don't want to give anyone ideas. Right? Like
Yeah.
I hate talking about specific diets because I'm like, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Because the harm is
Irreparable. Yeah.
irreparable.
Close enough. You were there.
Thank you.
I think ultimately for me, it boils down to, it was one of my favorite clapbacks on my reel that went viral. And it was just, I had so many people telling me, you know, oh, you're so unhealthy, you're so unhealthy, you're so unhealthy. And it's like, you have no idea how healthy I am compared to the girl that used to think that she was better off dead than fat.
Yeah, 100%.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. So, all of this to say, what the work that Philly FatCon is doing is amazing.
yeah.
And people need a safe space to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because being fat affects every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
And for people who are currently working through internalized fat phobia and learning to be liberated in our own bodies, it brought up the ideal of good fat and bad fat and what that actually means and what the fuck health is.
Yeah.
And I really hope, and I feel like in my heart I already know, that so many people were positively impacted by going to Philly FatCon.
Oh, absolutely.
And I really hope that the space that they created was life-changing and beneficial to so many.
Yeah.
And I'm also really interested to see what other opportunities they create over the next couple of years.
I love that.
Yeah. I think, since COVID, there's just been less big events like this, right? And it would just be exciting to see us, fat community, coming together to talk about more and more topics and to widen out kind of the conversations that get to happen with other fat people.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm really interested in seeing. And, I feel like we're doing our little bit of part with Charlotte Plus, but would love to show up.
A little bit.
Would love to go to like a big event or something soon, and just I just want to really have the deep conversations.
Yeah.
And get into things. So we'll just keep doing it here.
Yeah,
on this channel.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I think this has been life-changing for me. Just having two fat best friends, and I'm gonna start with that descriptor, but two fat best friends who are just like me, right? And understanding like there's just so much more to this world than the size of my body. And you two have helped me with that. Charlotte Plus has helped me with that. The internet has helped me with that and harmed me with that. But it's just, it really is. I feel like it's such a new world when you decide that being a good fatty or bad fatty is just not anything to do with your self-worth.
Yeah. Call me whatever you want, but doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. You can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
We're fat.
We're fab.
We're friends.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.